So it looks like it's pretty clear that general winter has arrived, and it's going to help the Russians, but it's going to help the Ukrainians at the same time. Generally, when we think of general winter, we think of general winter pushing back against Napoleon's troops who are unprepared for the battle and the winter that follows. They don't have the proper cold weather gear to keep them warm, or Hitler's troops or something along those lines. But the Ukrainians may benefit from it. I mean, General Winter wasn't helping in the Winter War when the Finns were out on skis. Okay, so that's what's happening there. Let's look at what's going on the battlefield today. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to look through the eyes of a Z blogger in order to see how they're seeing what's actually happening. So we're going to compare mental notes. 1,040 Russians off the battlefield. That is remarkably low. That's the second lowest in a month and a half. The lowest before that was 1020 on November 24th. And since then, it's been much, much higher. But General Winter may be playing some kind of, or having some kind of impact in this. 1040 Russians off the battlefield, 2 tanks, 24 artillery systems, 40 vehicles and fuel tanks, and that's pretty low still. Okay, so let's look at the drones last night. There were 132 drones launched on Ukraine, 58 shot down by regular air defense, 72 suppressed by electronic warfare. So basically, almost none of them hit their targets, hit their intended targets like they were supposed to. So that's pretty good record. Ukrainian intelligence conducted a successful sabotage operations on Russian soil. In Krasnodar region, a Su-30 bomber was torched. So this wasn't hit by a drone. This was somebody sneaking into the airbase and being able to sabotage it. And the night before that, 3 locomotives were attacked. So here's another view of the same thing of the saboteur of the Su-30 flanker. And then the Ukrainian armed forces also confirmed that and then the Ukrainian armed forces also confirmed striking one of the largest oil terminals near Oryol, Russia. So this oil terminal was hit. It's not supposed to look like that big smoke cloud. Okay, Russian forces. Let's look at the frontline analysis. This was yesterday. Russian forces recently advanced near Pokrovsk, and again, they're advancing near Pokrovsk, and they've been advancing near Pokrovsk. Let's look at the maps in each region. Kharkiv direction, 1 attack. Kherson region, twice. Seversk direction, an attack. Bakhmut front, 5 attacks. Horlivka, 9 attacks. Kupiansk direction, 10 attacks. Liman direction, 24 attacks. Kharkiv direction, 26 times. Vremika direction, 34 times. Pokrovsk direction, 56 times. So obviously, Pokrovsk is the hottest place on the battlefield. It has been the hottest place on the battlefield, and they keep going at it. Now, what we're going to do is look at something really, really interesting. 2 posts by Andrew Perpetua. The first one was pretty simple. This one, Russian government says, we have manpower problems. Russian military, we have manpower problems. Russian soldiers say, we have manpower problems. People on Twitter, Russia has infinite manpower and will last forever. It's really interesting. Like, they're admitting that they have manpower problems, and they're pursuing a strategy that is only going to exacerbate the manpower problems, and yet we think that they have unlimited resources. Now, they are willing to endure more suffering than you would otherwise think, but wow, just like listen to their problems. Okay, so let's do this. Let's review something that Andrew Perpetua posted. This is an analysis of a Russian analyst with regard to Russia and Ukraine. So this is a Russian's perspective of all the things going on, what I'm about to read. Cursed direction. The point is that one more settlement has been liberated. At the same time, there are no serious changes. Okay, it's good to know. Now, we are waiting for an opportunity for a sudden breakthrough. We need 1 or 2 or 3 days to seriously change the front line. Maybe that's a little optimistic, but okay. Kharkiv direction. No, we haven't forgotten. We are very worried. Okay, it's good to know that they're worried about that. And we're trying to put pressure on Lipsy and Volchansk. The fighting is intense. The same is happening in Kupiansk's direction. We have been waiting for a breakthrough for a long time. It seems to have started, and then again, there's no pressure on Kupiansk, and we're knocked out of the city. There is no movement south of Kupiansk. In the Lyman direction, no changes for months. Still, it seems that the focus should be on military commanders. It doesn't seem like the problem is in the personnel. That doesn't happen. Well, sometimes it happens, but if you have good commanders, generally speaking, you do pretty well. Here are the academies. Here are the orders. There are commanders where everything happens, and there are those people who just slowly waste away. Seversk, the first where they decided to change the command staff. Yes, they did, but so far we do not see any changes in the implementation of plans. Stupid frontal assaults. Okay, again, this is the Russian analyst talking about what they're seeing, and again, they think that the Russian assaults are stupid. So, okay. It's possible that the new command needs such attacks in order to protect itself from possible counterattacks from the Ukrainians. Who knows what to expect from them? But it doesn't look like a change in the approach to troop management. We wait and hope. So in the meantime, they're creating these stupid frontal assaults, and that's not going well for them. There are no changes along the front line, none yet. Chasiv Yar area. So there are possible variations here as well, but small. Tourette's direction. We'll skip it today. Everything that was said, the airstrikes have stopped, the assaults have started, and now about the most interesting, or to be precise, most painful, Pokrovsk. I do not want to repeat some bloggers, for example, why Podyaka, but Pokrovsk is not a strategic settlement. Now, there's a difference between strategic, that means you get this and the game's over, and something tactical. And it is tactically important, but it's not strategic like it's going to win the war in and of itself. It'll just force the Ukrainians to have to back up. Although, if you listen to him, almost every village is a strategically important point. But it's difficult to overestimate the importance of the capture of Pokrovsk. In our minds, in comparison with the Great Patriotic War, Pokrovsk is our Stalingrad. If you can imagine, Stalingrad is the fall of 1942 to January of 1943. How long is it until victory? So are we. Do the math. Why couldn't we close the pocket on either the first radius or apparently the second? Our answer, no manpower. This is the Russians talking about how they don't have manpower. Again, this is a Russian analyst. There is no other explanation. The problem is exactly that. No resource, that's personnel. To be more precise, the nature of modern warfare has seriously changed the ideas about what resource one should have to carry out certain military operations. On the one hand, you don't need a lot of personnel. On the other, when you need it, you don't have it. A little bit at a time, but this bulge is closing. We are waiting for the subject to be closed. Now, it has taken a long time. Near the end of the summer, I was thinking, uh-oh, Pokrovsk is about to fall. What's going to happen here? I mean, I can't see how it's going to last much more than a month. And then the Russians just kind of didn't keep going forward. They kind of went around the periphery. And I understand why, but it's almost Christmas and they still haven't taken it. If we look retrospectively at the situation on the flank north of Kharkovo, we could talk about the relative calm for 2 to 3 weeks. Yes, they were moving south, but not directly toward Pokrovsk. We assume that we will use a successful tactic that has justified itself many times. The city is taken in small semi-envelope, and then the assault begins from 3 sides, from 2 flanks, and head on. So enveloping Pokrovsk does seem like what they want to do. Zaporizhia. There is information that some activity is being prepared in this area, but so far there are no serious changes. The whole internet is talking about the fact that we are preparing a rush across the Dnipro. The summary of the situation on the front ends here. And now a little bit about other events. Now they're going to start talking about what's going on in Syria. So in Syria, 1, it's not very clear who's come to power in the country so far. And 2, no matter what anyone says, but they are clearly appointees of unfriendly regimes and countries. And so they will push through a policy unfriendly to us. 3, the strongest cronyism will lead to chaos or weakness. And this is very much to the liking of the Anglo-Saxons. Even if this cronyism did not exist, they would create it. Of course we would. 4, losing bases for us would be very sad. That's putting it mildly, in all the implications of the word. 5, it seems like they are still pushing us out of there. 6, we're losing billions of dollars. Military secrets, geopolitical influence. Once again, we see the worthlessness of our approach to love the so-called elites and not work on the masses. The problem is clear. We ourselves are the same. We do not care about the people. We cherish the elite, thieves, and crooks. Wow, if that's not a fascinating sentence, I don't know what is. So they're admitting that what they did in Syria was ignore the masses, in fact, punish and persecute the masses while they sweet talk the elites. Orishnik, this was even more fascinating. The Orishnik missile that they thought was going to have this huge effect on the psyche of the West. A sad story is unfolding. No one got scared at the moment. The West thought about it, but for the future. Ukraine, they're not quite normal. These threats to them, it's not very clear what they mean. After Orishnik, we were hit many times with everything possible, ATACMS, drones, etc. That Orishnik missile was supposed to back you up, and it didn't. And now they're worried about it, going, I wonder what else we'll do. Ukraine's energy industry is 60%, if not more, dependent on nuclear power. Clearly, we will not hit nuclear power plants. Taking into account the standing industry, there's no problem with electricity in Ukraine. Now, they have rolling blackouts and things along those lines, but Ukraine can sustain a lot more than what they thought Ukraine was going to be able to sustain with these attacks on the power grid. They conclude something is wrong in the fatherland, something is not right. All right, tell me what you thought about that. That was really, really interesting. A little bit more. Once thriving population of 75,000 in eastern Ukrainian town of Bakhmut. This is just a guy going for a ride on a motorcycle through Bakhmut so that you can see what the city looks like. That is what Russia brought to Ukraine. You just see empty buildings, nobody around. It's just desolate. That is Bakhmut. That is what they spent months and months trying to take from the Ukrainians. Finally, if you don't enjoy your job, just imagine being a sapper who's extracting unexploded warhead of a downed KH-101 cruise missile. That's what this guy's job is. He has to hit this off with a sledgehammer in order to get the unexploded part out. Now, nothing happens to him, but wow, I certainly would not want this particular job. That just seems pretty rough. All right, my friends, that's all that I have for you today. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.